Mine Rescue. That's what we're talking about this month, along with 5 members of the Mine Rescue Hall of Fame. This is Tim Watkins, Kenny Murray, Joe Pavlovich, John Urosik, and Jim Vicini. And this is Paul Krivakucha, who heads up CORESafety at the National Mining Association. The concept of mine rescue really got started back in 1911. Here's President William H. Taft back then at a mine safety demonstration in Pittsburgh that drew more than 15,000 attendees shortly after the U.S. Bureau of Mines was established. Mine rescue teams are a different breed of men and women. Highly trained, highly focused, and highly committed, they volunteer to save the lives of their coworkers in dangerous situations. Let's hear some of the stories from these 5 Hall of Famers.
What's your earliest memory of getting trained in mine rescue? Where did the training take place, and what prompted you to volunteer in the first place?
Well, my actual mine rescue training started in 1977, and that was at Cumberland Mine, which is located in southwest Pennsylvania. It actually still operates today. At the time I got my training, it was owned and operated by United States Steel. And I said it was 1977, but it wasn't until 1987 till we actually got our first call. So we actually trained as a team and competed in various mine rescue competitions, local, state, federal, national, for 10 years before we actually got the call. It amazed me that the day we did get the call, how that training kicked in. You know, U.S. Steel had a huge tradition in mine rescue. Unfortunately, a lot of it was driven by a mine disaster they had in 1962. It was the Rabrina mine explosion. So you guys on the panel all are familiar with that. Unfortunately, there were 37 miners killed in that explosion. And like I said, that was a U.S. Steel mining operation that was actually located in my hometown of Carmichael, Pennsylvania. So, I mean, it was not that I was interested at 8 years old and being a mine rescue team member, but I do remember the tragedy, because a lot of guys that I went to high school with had lost parents and uncles and friends and neighbors and things of that nature in that disaster. I actually had an uncle that was a mentor of mine that lived in the same community as I did, who was a member of U.S. Steel's mine rescue team that actually went in and recovered those bodies. So I grew up and I learned a little bit more about it. He kind of became my role model, and I actually, worked at U.S. Steel. He worked at U.S. Steel. He was a foreman. I became a foreman. I became a member of the mine rescue team, became a captain of the mine rescue team. He left U.S. Steel, went to work for MSHA. Later on in my career, I left U.S. Steel and went to work for MSHA. He stayed active in the mine rescue team with MSHA. A lot of these guys have worked with him. John Chambers was his name, by the way. You guys know him. He's a mine rescue Hall of Famer as well. But I kind of followed his footsteps. I mean, literally from U.S. Steel on into MSHA, and then he retired at MSHA. The rich tradition, and it was a badge of honor. I mean, it really was to become a mine rescue team member at U.S. Steel, and it opened a lot of doors for me. It probably helped me get the job from U.S. Steel to MSHA. The fact that I was able to have some mine rescue experience and real life mine emergency experience on my resumes.
Kenny, I really appreciate your comments and congratulate you on the great career you've had with that. I think now I'd like to go to maybe, and I hate to say it this way, but turn it over to the youngster in the bunch, Tim, and get his comments on that same question.
As you said, I started my career with MSHA in 1988. I didn't really even know anything about mine rescue, or that mine rescue really even existed, until I went to work for Mr. Urosik in 1991 in Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Technology Center, as a ventilation specialist. Also during that time, I got involved with mine rescue contests, as as Kenny mentioned. So again, spent a lot of time with the teams, learning about the teams, learning the skill set that they bring. But as far as what actually motivated me to join a team was just pure admiration from the things that I learned that these mine rescue teams bring, the dedication that they bring, the commitment, and the sacrifice that all these team members endure throughout their career. Mine is a very small community, and the mine rescue community is even a smaller subset of that. So, yeah, again, just for me, it was just pure admiration for what these teams bring and what they offer to not only to the companies but also the local communities that these teams serve.
Tim, I appreciate that. And I know the short time that we spent together and worked together, I know you were the go-to guy and had the expertise there. So I really appreciated that. And I'm sure everybody else did too. So I'm going to go to the other spectrum a little bit, to the elder statesman in the group, to Mr. Joe Pavlich, and get his comments.
Well, thank you, Paul. Yeah, I kind of got into mine rescue by default, I guess. I started with the Bureau of Mines, which later became MSHA in 1971. And I trained for a couple of years in Beckley and Wheeling, and I was stationed in Morgantown, West Virginia. And a lot of those inspectors in Morgantown were on the MSHA mine rescue team, and they were recovering the Farmington No. 9 mine. So they were going back and forth down there, and they would come back and tell me stories. And I thought, this sounds like a pretty interesting thing and something that I'd like to get into. And I asked to join the team, but of course they told me I didn't have enough time in service and the team was full. So I didn't get that opportunity, but I later resigned and I went to work for a coal company in southern West Virginia. And we had 6 mines down there, smaller mines. And when I was a safety director, and I had a couple safety inspectors working for me, and one day I looked out the window of my office and there was a truck pulled up and they were unloading boxes. And I asked one of my safety guys, "What is that stuff that they're unloading?" He said, "That's our mine rescue equipment." I said, "We don't have a rescue team." He said, "Well, we do now, and you're on it." So that is how I started on it. And really, we trained for about a month and went to a contest, and we weren't very good. And about 2 months, we got a call to go to one of our mines was on fire. They had a battery fire. And of course, we weren't very well trained, but we responded and went down there and took our apparatus with us and eventually got the fire out. I was kind of really proud of the guys, but I thought, if I'm going to be involved in this, I need to learn everything I can about it and stay involved in it. So that was my start of mine rescue and kind of, how I wanted to get into it and how I ended up getting into it. And then further along in the years, it really advanced my career.
Joe, appreciate that, and appreciate all the work you've done, in my rescue and still do, right? And still actively involved. I know we spent some time together on an exercise, and that was great. Very knowledgeable for me. I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Bacini. Now, Mr. Bacini and I spent some time together, and we still stay in pretty close contact. But again, learned a lot from Jim and on a lot of different aspects, but definitely his expertise and activities on the mine rescue. So, Jim, I'll let you tell your story.
Okay. Similar to Kenny, actually, I didn't realize we'd had that much in common, but I grew up in a coal camp, and the mine rescue field was right down below my house. And I watched those guys practice a lot, even though I had no idea what they were doing for the most part. And the equipment that they had was the old goggles and bit and mouth bit and nose clips. So communications were not there. So they used bicycle horns for the advance and retreat and all that. But I was intrigued by what they were doing. And I did know that team had spent time at the Robina explosion. And because a lot of my friends that was their fathers. And so, yeah, I was intrigued with all that. And then in the late 60s, the media started airing for the first time mine disasters. You had the Farmington and explosion, and then you had the Hayden explosion, which was not too far from where I live. And I did know a lot of people that were involved with that. I started in the mines myself in 1970, and in less than a year, I was asked if I was interested in joining the team, which I said absolutely. So I got on the team in 1971, and my first, we trained on that same field that I'd seen, and in the winter months, we actually trained underground at a mine that was in that area. But we trained a lot under U.S. Steel, and the first call for me was the Scotia disaster in 1976, which there were 2 explosions on March the 9th and 11th, and a total of 26 miners died. And by that time, I was the MAC man on the team. So, yeah, I spent 2 days up there and involved in that. But that's how I got my start.
Thank you, Jim. Again, it was great this time we spent together, and hopefully have some more activities together going forward. And John, I know you and I haven't worked together very much, but I can tell you that over my career, I've heard your name as many times, if not more than the rest of the group there. And again, with your background and expertise, both domestically and internationally. So again, congratulations on all that. But would really like to hear your story also.
Well, it's been great listening to these guys because they brought back a lot of memories. Kenny, back in the day when you were working at Carmichael's, I just graduated from high school, got a job with MSHA as I was going to college. And I was one of those guys was probably pulling your lifeline or pounding the roof bolts in the ground to set up the field at Carmichael's. And that was my really first experience. And that was back in the mid 70s with mine rescue. I've been involved in contests pretty much ever since then. My life is pretty much, my work life has pretty much been mine emergency and mine rescue. My first experience with mine rescue really underground was at a mine in Pennsylvania, Mariana mine. And we went underground and the fire was still burning. And of course, I didn't have apparatus at the time, but neither did the folks with me. And we went, we walked up the track entry, and I'm looking over in the belt or the next entry over. Oh, and it's burning like crazy. And the mine rescue team had to do some work over there, and we watched them do that. And what I brought was the gas analysis. And of course, back then, gas analysis didn't have these nice little detectors like we do today. You had big cumbersome units that you had to use, but that's what I was doing. So probably the first investigation with MSHA that I was involved with is the one Jim mentioned down at Scotia. And was part of the group of MSHA folks that went down, and all the people that lived in the area thought MSHA was down there trying to blow the mine up again. And actually what we were trying to do was simulate what happened to try and figure out how the gas is built up. And I was part of that. So it's interesting to hear how we all kind of tie together in that. After the Mariana fire, I went to Mr. Huntley, who was in charge of the mine rescue team, and I begged him to let me on the team. And he said, "No, I need you on the surface sitting here right beside me." So I was kind of stuck at that position, and I enjoyed that. And most of my the earlier parts of my career was always in the command center. I've been in a lot of command centers, probably every one that occurred from 1970 to when I retired. And but then I became in charge of the mine emergency operations. And when I did, that gave me the opportunity to get on the mine rescue team. And Virgil Brown was the trainer that we had. You probably remember that name. And I did the training at Beckley. And of course, wearing that apparatus till you couldn't wear it no more, when you were sweating so much and you're just about out of air. That's when you knew that you were comfortable with that apparatus and you could do what anyone asked you to do with it. And that was really a good experience. That was really a good training. I really enjoyed working with the mine rescue teams and being part of them, especially in the latter part of my career where I would be mainly in the command center, but every once in a while, the hierarchy at MSHA would let me go underground. and go with the teams. Upper Big Branch was probably the last one I was at, and got to go with the teams underground and learned a lot, got to see a lot. But mine rescue is, like I said, it's been my life. And anybody that gets involved with it, it's something that stays with you and is still with me today. It'll be with me till I die and I can't do it anymore. But it's a good feeling.
Thank you, John, and great comments. Again, with your background and your experience and knowledge, so it's great to hear from you. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next question. So, what would you say is the most important aspect of mine rescue from a personal standpoint? In other words, what has it meant to you personally to have the commitment and the responsibility that's associated with such a vitally important mission?
For me, since I joined the team, MSHA's mine rescue team, mine emergency unit, whatever you want to call them, back in 1998. So I did have opportunity. When you're on the MSHA's team, you have the opportunity to travel all the United States and see a lot of different types of emergencies and a lot of different types of activities. And for me, that it's just been a true honor to be on that, to be part of that team, to be on that team and to perform that function. When you're on rescue teams, I mean, you practice and you practice for an event that you hope never occurs and never happens. And it takes a lot of dedication, as I mentioned before, and just to know that you're part of something that very few people have the opportunity to even do or even want to do. You know, it's not, like I said, it's not for everyone, but it is a great opportunity. And I honestly don't believe that I would be sitting in the chair that I am today had I not been part of the mine rescue team and what it actually brings and teaches you. Very few times, PK, do we actually have the opportunity to, as a rescue team, to go in and actually save someone. That's what we practice for. That's what we hope to do. But my biggest accomplishment that I can think of, being with MSHA for the 35 years, came in probably 2015. 2015, we got a call. Our district manager in Pineville, West Virginia, we got a call that there was a person, it wasn't a miner, it was a person who went into an abandoned mine, and actually they went into steel copper. Okay. We later got a call from his buddy who went with him. Of course, he didn't tell us he was with him at the time, but anyway, that his reporting that his friend was missing in the mine. This was, I think, in January. So we actually go to the mine and working with some of the local company team. Now, I'll cut it short. We were actually able to rescue the individual that was in the mine. The oxygen level got down to a little less than 13%. So and it was dropping. So I'm not sure how much longer he would have survived had we not responded and with professionalism of the team, able to bring that individual out of the mine and actually save a life. So to me, right now, that's probably the biggest accomplishment that I've had in my career. But it all goes back to, the training that we received in '91. John mentioned gas analysis, so we know how to deal with those, but also the procedures and stuff to keep the team safe. And like I said, we got him out, nobody hurt, and it was a really good night on a cold January night.
Tim, I will tell you that I remember hearing that story, and I know you and I didn't know each other at the time, but again, anytime you can do that and save somebody's life, that's pretty significant. And I know that that's always the goal, especially when something's going on there. But then and protecting yourself and the rest of your team by doing that. So thank you for that, Joe. I'm going to turn it over to you and get your comments.
Okay, well, one of the things that I thought was really important to me was the opportunity to help people. was on several mine rescue teams with companies. When I got back with MSHA in Birmingham, Alabama, I got to train a lot of the teams down there and work with them and actually work underground with them on some mine fires, and probably saved a couple of those mines. So we saved a lot of jobs and a lot of people. I've never had the opportunity to rescue a person, but I always thought, I'm ready to do that if possible, and I can do that. I've probably trained rescue teams all over the country. I was in Alabama, I was in Kentucky, I was out west and worked with those teams, and even worked with several of the metal non-metal teams out there, and we exchanged a lot of great ideas and opportunities to prepare people. I spent a lot of time in command centers with mine fires and rescue operations and recovery operations. Recovered several mines after an explosion, so I've had a lot of opportunity to do that and put those people back to work and help them out. About the last 6 years that I was with MSHA, I had an opportunity to travel a lot internationally. So I got to go to Ukraine several times, Russia, South Africa, Poland, and observed a lot of their mine rescue training, shared a lot of ideas, was able to come back with the information that they had provided to me and that I had got to see. So since my retirement with MSHA, I have been able to travel a lot more internationally, been to China and Indonesia, did some mine rescue work there. And I've also done a lot of MIRD training for companies and still work with some of the teams, period. I was director of the National Mine Rescue Contest for 6 years, so I had a lot of opportunity to work with a lot of teams, and all of these guys that's on the screen here with me, I know from somewhere. We're all from different areas. We all grew up different. We had different experiences and life-changing events, but somewhere along the line we crossed paths and we all worked together. And as someone said earlier, it is a small community, and you can travel all over the place and you'll find a rescue guy that you worked with or someone. I know John and I worked together first time in 1981 at Grundy 21 mine in Tennessee when that blew up, and that's where we first met. You were doing the lab work and I was recovering the underground area. So we've got a lot of experience together.
It's just so interesting. I know we had a short session here just the other day, but just the camaraderie and just the relationship that you get from being a mine rescue member, even though you don't live near each other, you're not around each other all the time, and you don't talk to each other. But when you do get together, you can share a lot of synergies and stories, things you've done, said and done. I think Joe, you probably ought to get onto the book writing detail here with all the background and experience you have. So there you go. Kenny, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and hear what you have to say and get your story.
Just to kind of piggyback on what Joe said, I mean, it's such a rewarding opportunity, and you actually meet people that all of a sudden you look at and you think maybe you were separated at birth. I mean, you have so much in common with them, and you have relationships you build. I mean, lifelong friendships that go on forever, and it's that piece of it is so rewarding. But big picture, it literally put me on a career path from where I started at U.S. Steel to where I'm at today. It drove me through U.S. Steel on into MSHA and then on to Alliance Coal as the vice president of operations. Without that mine rescue background and experience and associations with different people from the industry, there's no way I'd be sitting in this chair today. So from a big picture standpoint, that was real important to me and my family. You know, provided a good living for my family. Although they had to travel around the country, I'm not so sure they cared much for it then, but they do now. Looking back, they really enjoyed their opportunities. But you know, Joe mentioned his being the director of the contest. One of the things that Joe did was the first ever international competition and contest where they brought teams from all over the world to Louisville, Kentucky in 1999. And I was fortunate and honored to be part of the United States team in that competition. And we did win the competition. So we brought home the first world championship to the United States in the field of mine rescue. Although we did have an advantage.
Don't be so modest, Kenny. You were the captain of that
I wonder
team.
why he's bringing that up, Joe.
You were the captain of that team. Don't be so modest. You were the captain.
Give me that address.
World champion captain.
Okay. Checks in the mail, Joe.
The MSHA Coal Mine Rescue Hall of Fame honors the men and women who stand out as being exceptional in the field of mine rescue through their accomplishments and their commitments. American miners work together with the knowledge that should an emergency arise, a well-organized, trained, and equipped group of mine rescue experts will be available to respond. Next month, we'll hear more stories from our 5 Hall of Fame members. And if you're a miner who's interested in volunteering for the mine rescue team at your operation, be sure to talk with your safety director or supervisor. They'll tell you what's involved. For now, though, thanks for watching, and please stay safe out there.
Got questions? Want answers? Follow CORESafety on social media. And write to us sometime, will ya? We'll write back.